Welcome to Once Upon a Quantum Leap. This is Paul Madar with Capucine Chapman. Our first exploratory journey begins with a past life crossing between two individuals in the pre-Egyptian third cycle of Atlantis, roughly between 50,000 and 28,000 years ago. Their crossing energetically weaves into the present time period.
Now imagine yourself first as a healer, having both the desire and ability to transmute your energy toward healing and direct it into a specific location. Your purpose in doing this is to provide individuals a place, like a hospital or a temple, to receive this energetic healing. Now imagine that you're a person who needs healing from a sudden spinal injury, and you go to this healing temple in hopes of receiving crucial help with this injury. Not only do you experience the benefits of the healing energy, but you accidentally end up becoming energetically and physically tied to the energy healer, dependent in a way.
This encounter sets into motion a series of lifetimes that two individuals will have exploring their dharma and karma and intertwining of souls. This episode explores a match made in ancient Egypt.
We could have started with any type of intuitive report, because there's like you said, the creative mind, Atlantean report, health analysis, dharma, past life profile. Past the specific one that we chose, a past life crossing. I'm going to get kind of corny on it, but it really does elevate for me this idea that love is eternal. Love has a timeless way of expressing itself, being gentle with individuals as they together, two individuals past life crossing, come together in different iterations of different lifetimes to continually journey their learning experience, their evolution experience individually as partners, and in the form of a relationship that's also a deeper connection. So I think we chose a past life crossing. I believe we did, Paul. I think I'm going to go with this because this particular one, it truly just, it goes deep into a deep Atlantean period, a cycle.
Yeah. It draws on a lot of things. Yeah.
So many things.
Yeah.
And then it talks about how we formed as individuals to work together, to be in service with each other. It talks about it, the dharma and the karma, how those two slowly evolved. And then it goes all the way to the present time period where these two individuals are currently together yet again, with a desire to deepen not just a relationship between themselves, but to deepen who they are as evolving beings.
Yeah. Edgar Cayce used to talk about the whole point of this whole system of being born and living and exploring this plane is to gain a deeper understanding of the creative forces and our relationship with the creative forces. And I think you can see that in this past life crossing, where the woman is really exploring. It all came about from exploring, and then just sparked more exploration, and they're still exploring today.
So let's set the stage. This particular past life crossing is what time period?
Third cycle. Oh, that takes some explanation too. Third cycle of Atlantis. It says third cycle Egyptian, but it's really essentially the same thing. It's third cycle of evolution of human consciousness on this planet, which was, boy, it's hard to say in years, even something like 100,000 BC up to about 50,000 BC, maybe even later than that, up to 25 to 50,000. I mean, it's so far back, but it's still it's traceable. And the main thing that started happening in this third cycle of Atlantis was people were getting entrapped in physical bodies. Entities for a while could come and go with these physical bodies on the planet, and they could form physical bodies from their own volition. But along came human evolution, and along came the pattern of karma developed, as you said. Karma and dharma developed as a way of further understanding this whole realm and vibratory creation and creative forces. So third cycle is, roughly that time period, 100,000 to 50-ish. And then fourth cycle, the final cycle of Atlantis, you would call from about 50,000 BC all the way up to about 12,000, 11,000 BC, roughly, when the Great Flood legends are talked about. That was pretty much the end of Atlantis, and it went blub blub after that.
I'll insert at this time that all of this is from quantum, or the intuitive reports, the research that's in the quantum research.
Right. So yeah, I'm lifting this directly out of.
That's right. That. So when we're referencing this information, we're saying from all of the intuitive reports, all of the quantum research that has come forward.
Yeah.
All different versions have been cross correlate. I mean, there's so much crossing that occurs, but it's like consistently we see this has been said that this is what this is.
So and this comes not just our quantum research, but years and years of this, as well as Edgar Cayce's quantum research, as well as Tibetan legends and quantum research that they did. All of that is sort of collected together in one story of humanity and consciousness evolution.
Yeah. Right. So that's the time period for this particular past life crossing.
Yeah.
And so now, should we just talk about what happened during that time, back when well, first of all, let's talk about what a past life crossing is. It's when two people say, hey, we're really intrigued with each other and we want to see if there's what our connections have been. There's something there that we need to know about our past associations, how that can help us in this time period. So it really is two people agreeing and saying, yes, I give you permission to do a past life crossing on both of us.
Yeah.
It starts from that point.
Yeah. The curiosity, wanting to investigate the relationship between two people.
And then you have the conductor and the reporter that say, we'd be happy to do this for you. Yeah. So, yes. All right, let's do this. Okay. So that's what, anything else, I mean, in a nutshell.
It's kind of rare that a crossing will end up being this early in the timeline of consciousness, like going back to Atlantis. There are so many crossings that you'll get. This was a couple in Germany in 1700s or 1800s, or it was a tribal situation in Mexico, or it was they were a young couple in love in Ireland in the late 1800s. But to go soaring back to third cycle of Atlantis, there's something really unique about the couple, first of all, to get to make this the crossing that is most relevant to their lifetime now, which is really what the crossings and the past life profiles do. They hone in on that, a situation in the past that really applies to today for them, so they can make a further connection and see their life now as a reflection or a continuance of that lesson that was going on back then.
And so this past life crossing, third cycle of Atlantis, Egypt, Do you want it? Should we go ahead and talk about what that was?
Where do we start?
Where do we start with that, right? So,
Yeah.
look, do you want me to go ahead and paraphrase that?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's just talk about, because we're going to play the clips, a couple
Yep.
of clips here.
So, it talks about one of the, they talk about them in vibration energy form. And one of them was female, one of them was male expression. And the one of the female expression created a temple, an energetic temple for healing, where this one would infuse this temple with healing energy, remove herself physically, and not interact with other individuals who would come to this temple to receive the healing energy. There was one other person that came, that was the male expression that came because he had incurred some injuries to the spine, and the healing energy from this temple provided some relief and some healing. But when this expression, this male expression, would then leave the temple, the pain would reoccur again, and then again would have to come back to this temple. Well, at some point, the female expression that would provide the healing energy for this temple, who would always isolate herself and not come in contact with other people, for whatever reason, came and actually put her hands on this male expression, and there created a different type of connection, which then spurred another learning journey, a trajectory of healing through touch, as opposed to just through an energetic form.
This is a good place to pause, because I happen to know this person, and she's a massage therapist right now. She has been a massage therapist for many years, and a very good one at that as well. I found that the mention of that the second vibration, the male, became dependent on the first. I found that really interesting, and I think that would be the start of what we would call the karmic entanglement here. Dependency, or confusion. Those were really common in the third cycle, where someone would become dependent on either an emotional expression or a physical expression, or the presence of another person, or the presence of some material comfort. Those all became kind of common entrapment sorts of draws and pulls for people.
And because their previous experience was more fluid, not as dense, right? It's a lot more of a fluid interaction, and then hence, I don't know how would I say this, Paul, about the essence coming into a body, and there then becomes a different interaction within this physical form. Right?
There's again, with the analogies, have you ever woken up and just felt really, really out of sorts and sort of groggy, and like you're not quite in your physical body yet? I think that's or sometimes maybe have spaced out, like you're sitting watching something or doing something, and you just kind of zone out and space out a little bit. You can think of that as experiencing the two worlds simultaneously. You're in a body, you have a body, you are a body, but you also recognize that there's this mind part of you that can dissociate and that can separate. So way back then in this third cycle, it was much more fluid. The separating of the body and the consciousness, and the body and the consciousness could come and go much more fluidly, much more easily. And as we became more and more, as we collectively, humanity, became more and more entrapped,
and
engaged, we that fluidity solidified into, well, I guess I have to go to sleep now. I have to shut down the body to actually escape from the body and into this quantum realm. And then I'll wake the body back up. So it became kind of clunky with that sleeping and waking cycle. But originally it wasn't so much that.
Well, yeah, there's even a little excerpt that says we see for this one to have a kind of ethereal quality where there was a physical form that this one would energize and use, and then this one allow the form to rest for periods of time while this one journeyed.
Yeah.
So this ability to move in and out.
Yeah.
But still have the attention.
Yeah. There might be a little bit of misunderstanding about, and I had this too for a long time with body and consciousness. We don't really inhabit a body. There's not like this body that you move into and land in and you pilot it around like a pet human or something, and then you discard it at the end of the lifetime. Really, I've come to understand that it's more that the body is an extension of the consciousness. So the body is formed because of the presence of the consciousness, and so there's this partnership that very intimate partnership that happens. We don't like take over a body and then discard it.
It's not like we jump into a suit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Put it on. Yeah.
Yeah. So the body really is part of you and it's an extension of you. It's just the more solid part of you. And it looks like, and it feels like it's separate from you, but it's the furthest out solidification of consciousness.
Well,
so onward with
back to the
story.
The story of so one time I was doing a workshop and a teacher said, so this is really informative information, but so what? What do we do with this?
Yeah.
I thought it was a super good question. It's a very important question. So it's good information, but so what? What do we do with it? And so that's where it goes into, well, during this present time period, this is the so what part of it.
Yeah.
Right.
And fortunately, in every past life profile and crossing, there is we call it the significance portion, where we essentially do say, okay, nice story. And how does that relate to the present lifetime for this couple?
Right.
And that's what it goes into next after the story portion.
Yeah. So it puts context.
Yes.
To the significance of it. Yeah. And so that next portion is, this one, I don't think I could, I guess, simplify it as easy.
Right.
There's so many nuances to it, but
there's a lot about blending. The energies are quite blended now, it says.
That when these two did again reconnect, that it was almost like, oh my gosh, and again, I don't want to perpetuate that, this great love story that you find each other, but in essence, this kind of like, this is how it's described. Like, oh
yeah, I hear a Taylor Swift song in the background.
That's right. Like, oh my God, we really did find each other, and there's something there between both of us, and we both know it. And so it just speaks more to offering them a time to consider what each one of their vibrations bring to their current journey. And it says here that at the present time, there is a profound joy that these ones experience with one each other, which magnifies in this present period of time that these ones know one another, and this is a field of energy that each one appreciates.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a knowing, when you just, I don't know, I think about my own son, and I just think about the connection I have with him. It's like there's just a knowing of a familiarity that exists there. It's just it's so familiar that energy is just so I'm moving my fingertips, like I can touch it, I can feel it, I can. It's so familiar. This is part of me.
Yeah.
And it also says is that there's a longing that they've both had individually for quite some time, and then this desire for them to interact again.
Yeah. You can see how again, the intention of the entity, whether you're incarnated or not, the intention is what draws people together. And both of them had a mutual intention to get together. And it looks like and sounds like they've done this for thousands of years. They've
Yeah.
come together
Mhm.
and joined up and joined forces and conquered the world again. And then, um,
Well, it even
yeah,
says that. However, as long as these ones have walked the earth in this lifetime, there has been a strong resonant field between them and a particular joy that has arisen upon the discovery of one another.
yeah. It says the first the woman can become a little bit consumed with the presence of the other, and then
Mm-hmm.
the second one offers stability and um, but yeah, there's this ongoing respect and admiration and appreciation of the other's presence in their life.
Right. And it does, this is where it goes back to the significance of that past life. The context that we provided was how one of them just became like really needed to be part of that temple to always be in a healing state. So, and then when the element of touch occurred in their past life, there, as you alluded to, that there became this karmic signature that started about
Mhm.
dependency on another
Yeah, yeah.
versus. I mean, but it wasn't with ill intent. When I say dependency, it's not like, okay, now I'm attached to you and you owe me your life. Nothing like that. It just created another opportunity for their ensuing lifetimes to learn how to understand how to tend to themselves individually, where it's
Hmm.
not always a dependency,
Right. Self-responsibility.
self
Yeah.
responsibility.
That's a continuing theme in most people's existence is
Mm-hmm.
learning the difference between being connected with others and being dependent on others. And that's a tricky one. You can sort of fool yourself into, no, I just like being around this other person, but really you're leaning pretty heavily against them for support and for emotional stability, and you can become dependent on the presence of the other to borrow their stability.
Right.
So that the self responsibility is a major common uh, karmic theme that I've seen a lot.
Well, then it says, would suggest to these ones to acknowledge the energetic nature of their union and allow the quantum connections between them to be more awakened. Recognizing that there is a power in this that creates a field that others need.
That's a good place to jump off as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Creating fields that others experience. Um, we walk around with a vibratory field. I mean, there's photography that can show these energetic fields. We're bioelectric creatures. And so we give off this bioelectric, electromagnetic field around us at all times. We call it the aura in metaphysics. Um, but physics can acknowledge this as well. And that field extends actually pretty far um, into the quantum realm as well as into the physical realm. This bioelectric field, you can feel somebody's presence. You can feel when somebody is hiding behind the couch and about to spring out and surprise you. Um, and then when two people get together and are close and their fields intertwine for years and years, they you, they influence each other's fields intimately. And when one passes, let's say one withdraws from the physical world, uh, it feels incomplete. It feels like that pattern is just not quite the same anymore. And that can create this longing that was mentioned in the report here, the longing for the presence and the completion of that field again.
Right. And so the quantum connections between them to be more awakened. So there's that word awakened
Mm-hmm.
to this
What does
quantum.
that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean? So um you use the example of, you can kind of sense if someone's getting ready to jump out to surprise you, happy birthday, but you kind of feel something. Well, yeah, I awakened to, I always can think of it as just the subtleties that also connect to like an intuitive authority. Like
Hmm.
there's a, but you're aware of it as opposed to, I just feel it. There's, so awakening to something that is not just a hunch.
Yeah.
There's something else that you recognize that is more than what maybe can be named sometimes. It's just some,
Yeah, you hear that word a lot,
that's
actually.
right.
You hear it in all kinds of different circles, in the political realm, especially now, of, I'm awake and everybody else is asleep, and, we need everybody to wake up, wake up. Sometimes it's coupled with conspiracy theories and wake up, everybody, but it's, I think in this realm, in the metaphysical realm, awakening is, like you said, there's a deepening of awareness. And I think there's that layer of awareness of connectedness that runs through this process of awakening. The Buddha, Gautama the Buddha, famously, when the story goes, when he became enlightened under the Bodhi tree, and some acolytes found him there, and they didn't say, "Who are you?" When they saw him, they said, "What are you?" And he said, "I am awakened." And I think that shows that there's a level of awareness of connectedness.
Mm-hmm.
There's of this quantum realm, of this fine mesh of interrelatedness and interdependency, and the soup, as I like to call it, because I like food analogies. You wake up to this soup that we're all in, this vibratory soup.
Right. And the responsibility of, or maybe it's a desire to want to know a little bit more about that. What
Yeah.
allows someone, like I have spoken to, and especially in my field of, my career is in the field of education, that I've spoken to so many people who are so sure that they are awake. They're
Hmm.
so sure that they are awake. And sometimes when I'm interacting with them, the visual image that comes to me is that you they're not aware that they're not awake, but they believe that they are awake.
Yeah.
So it's, did the Buddha, there's something about the Buddha just knew he was sleeping for a long time.
Yeah.
And
That fueled his quest for
that,
enlightenment.
that's right. That just kind of fueled him to keep saying, there's something else that I'm missing something.
I do think that's intrinsic to everyone, though,
Yeah.
right? The quest for self-awareness and that awakening. I think that's built in to all of us, because um, after conducting so many of these reports over the years and hearing so many of these reports, you start to see this pattern of a long time ago in a Atlantis civilization far, far away, in the Egyptian civilization. There was this gradual process of what you could call going to sleep. There was full awareness of our what we were, where we came from, consciousness, all of this. But gradually over time, over evolution and over this development of karma and dharma, and just getting attached to coming back to this planet, we kind of fell into a sleep collectively as humanity, a sleep as to our true nature, a sleep as to um, our true essence and why we're here and what we're doing with life and what the creative forces are in the first place. And then only recently, I think you could say that we're now ready to wake up collectively as humanity, just starting to get this collective urge to understand where we are.
Right.
You might say that religion is a fuel for that, but we all know that religion can be twisted and used for power purposes in the world, in the physical world. But there's a spiritual nudge and pressure and maybe a draw for us to all reawaken to our true nature. And this crossing addresses that the more that they tune into the quantum field, the more it'll further this process of awakening.
Yeah, that's so you caused me to ask another question about the purpose of coming into different lifetimes,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to just getting it one time. I mean,
Yeah,
first of all, what is that we're trying to get, and why 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 come into different cycles of different lifetimes?
yeah,
You know, to to wake up, to awaken.
yeah. Yeah. What is the the point of all of this returning?
Mm-hmm.
If you really pull back and look at the process, it feels like we fell asleep and now we're waking up, but I would argue that we never actually, there is no asleep and there is no forgetting and there is no waking up either. It's just consciousness exploring consciousness. If you pull way back,
Mm-hmm.
there's there is a consciousness that is moving throughout this created universe, that even that is consciousness. It's solidified in different forms and it's exploring this. I mean, you can get pretty esoteric with
Mm-hmm.
this and very, very broad and general with this movement.
Right.
But holographically, each individual then is an individual element of consciousness, individually exploring some pathway, some journey. I think it gets set pretty early on, uh, what you're going to be exploring and how you'll be exploring for thousands of years.
Right. Right. I think
And then
that's, yeah.
along the way, you'll make mistakes and you'll
Uh-huh.
generate more karma and more dharma, and yeah, and then keep that cycle going.
Make mistakes. The more where you are, you self correct with the intention of doing your best to learn. And um, yeah. So this whole idea of cycles, like we started off with, what are the cycles of this Atlantean period? Well,
Mm-hmm.
I think, for as long as, I don't know, sentient beings continue to evolve, or just our energy continues to evolve, we'll continue to create even more cycles.
Yeah,
Just more cycles will continue to be perpetuated, and thousands and thousands and years from now, others will be saying, "Oh, that was the cycle." I don't know what are they going to call this cycle that we're
yeah.
in.
The 216th cycle. Yeah.
Yeah, again, not to get too esoteric, but yeah, this is infinity at its finest.
Yeah.
And but also the value that each one of us have in contributing to the evolution and betterment of this whole story, the
Mm-hmm.
story of how we all have something to contribute, and have contributed, and will contribute, um, to wherever we go.
Yeah.
And yeah. And so,
And in that way, this consciousness that is present just keeps on growing, and then collectively is more curious about what else could be and what else can be, and just keeps on growing and expanding and exploring. I told Christine, my wife, who's a fabulous reporter and does a lot of these reports.
yes.
Um, I told her I want to make a T-shirt that says, it just says on the front, "There is only one of us here." It's my favorite line that I
Make a
found
t-shirt.
in an
Make a
intuitive
t-shirt.
report one time. Um, so that says, as consciousness goes, there's only one of us here, really. There's not you and me. We're the same. We come from the same place. We are made of the same stuff, and here we are.
And yet at the same time, we have these intuitive reports that tell us that individually
Mm-hmm.
there's something that we need to do to continue to progress and evolve so that we come to really understand that there's only one of us.
Yeah, there's intellectually thinking, oh, there's only one of us here. And
Mm-hmm.
intellectually, we can say, oh, we're all one. Oh, we're one happy people. But mm, yeah, really understanding that and really, really knowing that at a deep level,
Deep, deep
I
level.
think that takes some work. I think
Yeah.
that takes
It's a knowing that I
some
think only
awareness.
only you can arrive at yourself.
Yeah.
Like
And then from that point, you're operating in the world as
one.
one of many. Oh,
That's
that
right.
sounds very Borgian from
That's right. But
Star Trek. Yeah,
Star Trek, thank you.
I'm a 7 of 9.
Well, so these reports then, the past life crossing then goes into because individuals have a chance to ask questions.
Mhm.
But usually there's always suggestions for that will help each one of these individuals continue their learning progression in the present time period. Because it's like you may have a lot of this. It's kind of like carrying a backpack of all the stuff you've learned in different lifetimes. But maybe there's something in that backpack that you just has a secret compartment and you're just not privy to it yet.
Yeah,
And so there's information that says, well, I'll give you a tip. I'll give you some resources or things for you to navigate that will help you open up that little secret container that
yeah,
you can then make full use of during your present experience. And so, there's different examples that are given. And so because the kind of like the subcontext of this relationship of these two individuals is about energy, right? Experiencing
yeah,
energy. I mean, it's really energy. Then recommendations are made about, well, hey, go investigate current people who know a little bit more about energy right now. I mean, this current time. And individually, you guys go and do your little energetic learning experience, have energetic experiences, and then come back again together and then practice on each other.
yeah.
So we've got,
Brilliant.
it's so right. I mean, this is why we've got so many different type of careers and pathways for people to invest their time and energy in. Because somewhere along the line, someone's going to need what you have worked so hard at kind of developing,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah,
So,
and it even suggests, the more they work on this quantum field between them, whether it's in their business or whether it's in individually or exploring with others around them, they create a field that others, when they're just in their presence, just sitting with them, just being with them, they are influenced by their field.
that field again, the field.
Yeah, the field, the quantum field.
Yeah. And I think that's important because I think all of us have experienced being in the presence of someone where it's like you can walk away and say, God, there's just something about just being there
Yeah,
with that person was
that's uplifting or
it's uplifting, it's
inspiring.
inspiring, it's comfortable, it's warm, it's
It can
loving.
also be the opposite too.
That's
I
right.
mean, it can be man, I'm just so glad to leave that person's
Yeah.
house. They were really dragging me down. And
Yeah.
yeah, so field tending, I used to call it.
Oh, that's a
Tend
good term.
tend your field.
Tend
Yeah.
your field, buddy,
And
because
yeah, which means
you could repel someone.
yeah.
It could be
And your
destructive.
field is built out of thoughts that you perpetuate,
Mhm.
thoughts, attitudes, feelings, emotions that you tend to just play over and over and over.
Mhm.
And you become known for that, and people experience that when they get around you. And so, what do you want to be known for? What do you want to be associated with? What do you want people to feel when they come into your zone?
Right.
That's a good question.
Right.
And I think this report of many, I like that we chose this one because it plays a lot on fields of influence and
Mhm.
tending your field and expanding your field and growing your field. And
It also uses the word. Let me just read it. These ones are quite ethereal in their connection, and there are patterns. That's the word I wanted to focus on. There are patterns that have been established. It goes on to say of a physicality in order to ground the energy. But we'll talk a lot more about the word patterns will come up a lot, and that are productive patterns and patterns that get in our way that we've developed over time.
mhm.
But in this particular one, it does talks about patterns that have been established that help ground the energy. So again, back to those little subtleties. I mean, if I was listening to this, if I was the person requesting this report and I was listening to that, I'd say, huh, what are those patterns that ground us?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
sometimes it could be you're not even aware. Again, it goes back to awaken to.
Mhm.
That's what it said. Sometimes you're not even aware that you could be doing some things that you're just not aware of that really could be of benefit. So
Yeah,
again, it invites the person to do more self-examination, self-reflection about what is that thing that you do.
yeah.
The more
I think
aware you
it always comes back to beliefs and thoughts. What
Mhm.
beliefs do I have about myself? Therefore, what thoughts do I generate over and over and over? Attitudes are solidified thoughts and beliefs, and then actions
Mhm.
come as a result. So you can start with a pattern of action, and then you can trace that back to, well, where'd that, yeah, why do I do things that way? Oh, I've got this thought or this belief behind that.
Yeah.
And then what's the emotion behind that? Um, what's the emotion fueling that? Is there a fear? Is there doubt? Is there insecurity? Or is there love? Or yeah,
Mhm. Yeah, one of my
why and how do I build these patterns?
one of
That
my first
go ahead.
awarenesses of thought, that was there is I remember thinking, oh, I really want to send a thank you note to this teacher. When I was little, I was younger when I had that thought. And then I had another thought that followed that. It's like, huh, I'm the only one that said that I would send that thank you card. If I never do it, no one will know
Hmm.
that I followed through with doing it or not. And that just always led me to um, thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
the subtleties of our thoughts, the more aware you can be of the trajectory of your thoughts and the impact of your thoughts, it's only to your advantage. It will be to your benefit. And you can never, once I think you open that door to yourself, there's honesty is always going to be on the table.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You just can never really hide from yourself. You can't, I mean, you really can't pretend anymore because it'll stay with you. You can ignore stuff. Like I could say, I'm never going to do that card and I'm not going to send that card. I'm not going to follow through with it. But, you're always with yourself in those.
Yeah.
But once you open that, it really is a gift. I don't want to scare anyone off to say, don't travel down this way, but it really becomes freeing. There's freedom. There's
Yeah.
so much freedom
With
that
responsibility.
with
Yeah.
responsibility. And I think
I
that's
had
what
a
keeps
I
it.
had a similar thought. years and years ago when I was little and I was exploring metaphysics and reading the Edgar Casey material and Lobsang Rampa books, and one of the principles that I came across, I don't even remember where, was that um, there are disincarnated entities that are always with you and around you. Like there's a spirit guide or spirit guides or a team of advisors and supporters, and at first it kind of creeped me out.
Mm.
It was a little disturbing to think that geez, they hear my thoughts, they know what I'm thinking, like like Santa Claus. He knows when you've been
Right.
good and bad. And
Uh-huh.
or some people would say Jesus
Right.
knows all of your thoughts and loves
Right.
you even though,
Yeah.
but it was a little disconcerting, and it actually served to keep me straight many, many times,
Mm.
uh, keep me out of trouble and keep me tending my field and tending my thoughts as best I could, because I thought, God, these other entities, I don't want them experiencing these thoughts. So clean
Right.
it up here, whip
Clean
it
it up.
back up. But that was the beginning of self-responsibility and tending my field. And I always wanted to get that across to other people that, you don't exist in a vacuum, and those private thoughts that you think are so private, they're not really that private.
They are visible.
Yeah. And they generate this field cloud, and they're like bubbles that you're continually blowing, and they land on people, and they swirl around you.
Mm. And again, I think that is another way of expressing how connection works too.
Mm-hmm.
We're always connected, always, always.
Yeah.
Whether again you're aware of it or not, there is a connection out there.
Yeah.
No. Well, what else do we need to cover here on this lovely story between these two individuals?
Well, we're
Well,
going to play the whole story at the end of this podcast, right?
we sure are, because this is just Paul and I. I mean, you and I are just fascinated with this and sharing our little excerpts, but
Yeah.
I believe, Paul believes that you got to hear it for yourself and ponder it, receive it, listen to it multiple times, do your own questioning and wondering, just like Paul and I are doing with it. And yeah,
Yeah. Enjoy
yeah,
the journey, enjoy the story, and listen especially to the significance portion, because that's really where um the power of these reports comes in, is why and how is it relevant right now, even though it's not any other person's report. Listening to someone else's report, there's universal principles, there's universal lessons, and universal suggestions that you'll hear inside of every single report that will resonate. They'll resonate deeply inside of you, and you can take away like little mini private assignments for yourself of, I
that's right.
think I'm going to do this
That's right.
differently in my life. I'm going to tend my field a little bit differently here in this way.
Yeah, or never thought of tending my field that way, or never even,
Yeah.
I mean, even if there's something that one of us says, I think that's where we all have, I think, was it Einstein? An Einstein quote. I'm going to butcher it a bit, but something to the effect that that what he felt that what we all had in common that was universal, like to all of us, is that we all are creative.
Hmm.
And that from there was, that's the playing field we all have in common. Whatever body you're in, whatever race, gender, whatever your circumstances are, we all come this from this same field of creation, create, this energetic field, and that's what we all have in common.
Mm-hmm.
And but it's unique to you, you unique to where you are right now and whatever you receive from it. So I think that you always have something that you can access.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Always,
always being drawn to you
always being drawn
constantly.
to you. Yeah. And then as we jump into our next episode, we're going to go into a Dharma report
Mm-hmm.
and a past life profile. And specifically for this one, I think you'll find it interesting because it's the same person 2 years apart. There's a thread that's between the Dharma report and the past life profile, but there's also some threads that carry over to the report that we are talking about today.
Yeah.
And
we'll get to explore what is a dharma, how is a dharma built,
that's right.
what are these common threads, and yeah,
So
it's
stay with us because
fascinating.
the journey goes deeper, it expands, it goes into a lot of other places. So enjoy the journey.
Once Upon a Quantum Leap is for your reference only. This podcast and the material is intended solely as educational information and should not be used for diagnosis or treatment of any health problem, financial, or legal advice.
You can listen to full episodes and find out about Paul and Capucine at onceuponaquantumleap.com. All reports shared on this show have been released with permission, and identifiers have been removed for individuals' privacy. If you're interested in obtaining your own intuitive report, go to quantuminsight.co. That's quantuminsight.co. You can listen to us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.